Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. In the background you can see Raymond Franz. It's not just a ghostly image, it's something I used on a previous video a couple of years ago. I was just thinking about Raymond's early life, and he was married to Cynthia, wasn't he? And they were special pioneers, and they served Jehovah relentlessly back in those days. They really did. There wasn't anything or any assignment that they'd say no to. They were virtually just pure slaves of the faith, you might say. I wonder if Raymond was ever attacked because of his faith. Well, I've read the book twice. It is a good book. He certainly had a difficult time. Stayed in some places that really you wouldn't really take your worst enemy to. You know, they were sort of cockroach infested places, but nevertheless, him and his wife being special pioneers and only having the one thought, and that is to do what they believed was the right thing at the time, and that was to preach and spearhead the witnessing work of that time. But I should imagine that Raymond and his wife, they did come up against a lot of hostility, and a lot of apostates would have attacked them, simply because they were high up in the hierarchy, weren't they? You know, they were on top of the pile, you might say. I wonder how he was able to deal with it, because it was later on, wasn't it, in the sort of late 70s and 80s that he started having all those doubts. But before he had those doubts, he must have been absolutely sure that he was doing the right thing, and he was in the right place, and there would have been absolutely no question about it. There's no way a man would have dragged his wife through what he dragged his wife Cynthia through if he didn't believe that was something very special, the commission that he was given. So I want to talk about why we shouldn't be looking at just men. It's something I'm guilty of. I've done it all my life. I've always looked at an individual and made some judgment on an individual, which is not fair. I've always been told you don't look at the men, you look at the message. So I'm going to look at the message that they deliver, and they are still delivering, is the Messianic kingdom. That hasn't changed. So does it really matter who delivers it? In the past, it was Raymond Franz and Nathan Noor, who I met in 1969 when I was a young lad. It didn't matter who delivered it as long as the message was delivered pure and simple. But today, we have a different deliverer of the message. We have our friend Tony, our Tony. So he's delivering the message at the moment, but does that mean that he'll be delivering that message in the future years? Well, perhaps he won't, because he may have just come to the end of his worth regarding how I believe that Jehovah uses a certain amount of people in life. And this is borne out by the prophets that he's used of old. Go through the prophets. Some of them have remained faithful right to the end, and some of them haven't. And those that don't remain faithful and they drop out, they just drop out of the top role or the teaching role, but they're still there as Christians. They're still there to support whoever it is that takes over. So what I'm saying is that Tony may not be there forever. He'll be hoping he's going to be there at least to the point where he's snatched away and takes up his heavenly life. If he's one of the anointed, that is probably what he's hanging on for. But I know that a lot of people are very critical of just individuals, and they target one individual after another individual. But I think if you're going to prove a point, you have to prove that the whole lot of them, the conglomerate lot, are wrong. It's easy to prove that one individual is wrong because one individual makes a mistake, or maybe that conscience of that individual just isn't as highly trained as another. So we need to prove that they're all wrong, and that just isn't possible, is it? Because the message is right, what they're saying. Who would not want to have a release from this world and live in a righteous new order? Who wouldn't want that? What kind of a future would we have for our kids if we keep supporting this failed system? So that's what I'm saying. It just doesn't matter who's delivering the message. Either Tony or, in fact, Raymond, who I liked. I was very fond of Raymond. I didn't know any of the other governing body members that well, but yeah, Raymond was what you call a top brother, and when he left, it was a shock to me as well, because I was still in then, and I kept thinking to myself, why has he left? What has he found? And of course, when you read the book, you realise he just was disillusioned. So from pure disillusionment was one of the main spurs that got him out. But you will notice that Raymond doesn't mention anything about child abuse in his book. I've mentioned this before. I think that this is a hugely significant point. He doesn't mention nothing about it. And I would have encouraged him to have at least said, this is going on and that's going on. And he doesn't. And I always found that quite pondering, because today, individually speaking, there's been countless cases, isn't there? Which you can't deny. I've never been trying to deny that, because I know it's true. I know that individuals can pull the wool over the eyes of men, but they can't pull the wool over the eyes of God. He sees all,